Hello, we're here today with Gigi Dingler at the Het Scheepvaartmuseum. And Gigi, there's a big exhibit now about the Baltic trade with Holland. Why was that important?
Actually, we have the exhibition. They have two exhibitions. Actually, it's a project. It's a series, and it's named "Cold from Corn." And we did it because actually the Baltic trade, it was the trade in corn, and that actually was the basic of the golden age in Holland. A lot of people, they think that the East India Company made the richness of Holland in the golden age, but actually it was the Baltic trade which was much more bigger and much more important.
Now, the particular exhibit that's on display here right now has to do with a ship that was found in 1984, I believe. Mm-hmm. What is this exhibit about?
It's a ship. It's a fluid-like ship, and we found it in the north of Holland, in the Wadden Sea, about 15 years ago. And it was very special because we found so many things, like 5,000 objects, for example, and all these objects tell a lot about that time, about the Baltic trade, how they went to the Baltic trade, how the crew lived on board, and all the circumstances on board. So that was why it is a very special ship, and we wanted to exhibit it, to have an image of the life on board of these kind of ships.
Now, these kind of ships, this is a precursor, I understand, to the flout, or the flout boat. What exactly was that, and why was it an important part of the trade?
This flout boat was the first who made it was in Holland, but actually it was in the 17th century, in the start of the 17th century. This ship is from 1590 about, so it's a little bit earlier, so we say it's like a flout-like ship. And that ship was very important for the Baltic trade because it was very practical ship. Actually, it had a narrow deck and a kind of belly form, so you could put a lot of stuff in there. And because of the narrow deck, it was very easy to sail with just a few people. It was cheap. Another advantage was that we always, with these ships, we always had to pass the Sond. That's the narrow, the access to the Baltic Sea between Sweden and Denmark. And there you always had to pay. And the pay was dependent on the width of the deck. And because it was a narrow deck, it was not so expensive. So that were two advantages of this ship.
Now, this ship that they found in 1984, how exactly was that discovered, and how did they go about doing the archaeology of it?
There were a few sport divers. They were diving there, and they found a shoe. And they saw a lot of stuff around it. So they took the shoe up and they brought it to an expert. And the expert saw it was a fashion of 50-80. And then they were thinking maybe it will be a ship of the Baltic trade, a Dutch ship of the Baltic trade. And then the ministry decided to explore the ship. And that costed about 15 years to get all the objects on the surface.
Now, the exhibit itself is set up much like it would be underwater. Why were these objects preserved so well?
Because all the objects were kind of under the slip, because there was no oxygen, and that's very special because now we still have some wooden objects, but we also have some hand-up objects, for example, ropes. We've also found the oldest sail of the world. And yeah, it's not more like a sail, but it is almost gone. But you can still conserve it and make it as a sail again, and that's very special, so old.
Now, you say that this trade, this golden corn trade that was so important to Holland's economy, how did that work? I mean, they would go to the Baltic and then what?
Yes. Now, the most of the ships, they started from Texel. It's an island in the north of Holland. And these ships were Amsterdam ships. Because in that time, Amsterdam was the most important city of Holland. And a few years later, it was the most important city of the world. There were thousands of ships going to the Baltic. And they took, for example, rope, wood, but the most important goods was corn. And corn was for two things. It was for bread, because it was the main food in Europe, and it was for beer. It was the main drink. And a part of it we used in Holland, but the most of the goods we transported to the south of Europe, to Italy especially, and to Spain, because there the population was growing and they needed a lot of food. So that was big business for Holland.
Now, during this period of time, Holland became the most prosperous city now, or most prosperous republic in the world. It prospered in the sense that this was a trade different than the VOC.
Yes.
What was the life like compared for the sailors on a Baltic ship with the VOC sailors?
And they wanted to believe it because it's very special to hear these stories, because it's very exotic. It looks special, so far away, such a long time, such exotic goods they brought. And this trade was actually boring because it was near, it was along the coast, they had to sail along the coast, and it was just boring goods like wood and corn. But actually the life on board was much better, because when they went with the VOC to Asia, they had to go for 9 months. They had bad food, bad wage, and this was very good business actually for them, because they had more wage, they had better food because they sailed along the coast. It was not so far, and they also had a possibility to trade on board. And you can see it here on the ship. We found a lot of breasts, and we found a lot of shoes, like 120 shoes and about 200 breasts. And that they made it on the ship, because it was sometimes it was boring on the ship. You didn't have to work all the time, and they had the freedom to trade a little bit in the Baltic states, so that was an extra income for them.
Now, you've said there's a second part to this show, and it's at another museum, and will eventually be coming here to Amsterdam. What exactly is that show?
That's the show Rich Cargo's Dutch Prosperity, and that's a show about the Baltic trade in general. We say this is the micro exhibition, just about one ship, and the other exhibition, it's the macro exhibition, and that tells the whole story about the Baltic trade, about the politics, about the navigation, about the goods, about the ship types, about everything. So that will come here the 13th of February until the 9th of May. So that's also very interesting to see just the whole story.
Now, this exhibit will be here until when, and when can the public come and see it?
This exhibition will be here until the 3rd of January, and the museum is open from Tuesday till Sunday, 10 to 5, and in the holidays, like now the Christmas holiday, it's also open on Monday from 10 to 5.
Ja, en zometeen natuurlijk Stadsdeel TV Zuidoost. Maar zoals we u beloofd hebben, eerst nog een stukje